Hello, everyone. In the previous session, we have discussed about the center motor vehicle rule. And now we are going to discuss about the Maharashtra motor vehicle rule 1989. So it is specifically related to the state of Maharashtra. And likewise, there are other motor vehicle rules with respect to that state. So state government can make these rules with reference to the Central Motor Vehicle Act and rule, and that is why Maharashtra government has made this rule in 1989. So under this rule, there are 10 chapters and 288 rules. So again, it is difficult to cover each and every rule and each and every chapter. So I would like to discuss and focus only on the aspects, and so that you can understand what exactly the contents of these rules are and what is given in that rule. Because many times we doesn't know what exactly this rule indicates and what are the contents of these rules, or why these RTO or assistant to RTO or traffic police or some polices are taking action against some of the drivers, etc. So for that purpose, we must understand what exactly the rules and regulation under this Maharashtra Motor Vehicle Rule 1989. So chapter 1 is related to the preliminary, under that short title and applications. Then second one is definitions. So the Act, Assistant Inspector of Motor Vehicles, Form, Inspector of Motor Vehicles, Passenger, Schedule, Stamp, State, Superintendent of Stamp. Other definitions are having the same meaning. So the main important definition under this Maharashtra Motor Vehicle Rule is RTO, that is Regional Transport Officer. It means any officer appointed by the state government for any area to perform the functions of regional transport officer under these rules and the rules formed by the central government, and includes an assistant regional transport officer. So that is appointed by the state government for such area as may be specified in the behalf. So for that particular region, you can have the assistant RTO, and for a particular region, we can have the RTO, that is regional transport officer, with reference to this state government rule as well as with the central government. Then he is going to control all these activity which is covered under this Maharashtra Motor Vehicle Rule. Then there is terminology, that is Transport Commissioner. Means any officer appointed by the state government to perform the functions of Transport Commissioner, Maharashtra state, under these rules and the rules made by the central government. So this is specifically for the transport mechanism. Then there is Treasury Officer. We know the exact meaning of that. Then the second chapter is related to the licensing of drivers of motor vehicles. Now it is focus on the drivers. So later chapter is related to the conductors, then it is related to the registration, etc. And that is why intentionally I am saying that, because the rules and their contents are near about similar and it is applicable to the conductors. Most of the contents are applicable to the conductors and some of the contents are applicable to the registration process also. So if you understand the contents of this chapter 2, then you can understand easily from the 3 and 4 chapter. So this is focusing on the licensing of drivers of motor vehicles. So licensing authority may be different one for the different region. We understand the Brian Mumbai is different, Thane region is different, Kolhapur region is different. But what exactly the contents? So for example, Nasik region for district of Nasik and Ahmednagar. So region means that is the district of Nasik as well as Ahmednagar. So for that purpose, the officer is there, and that transport officer or regional transport officer is going to give the license to the public which is under Nasik district and Ahmednagar, and likewise you can understand the different regions. Then authorization to drive the public service vehicle. So we have to give the authority to that person who is having the license to drive the public service vehicle. So no authorization to drive a medium passenger motor vehicle shall be granted unless he has held a driving license for at least 1 year to drive a LMV, that is light motor vehicle. So for light motor vehicle driving, you should have the driving license for at least 1 year. No such authorization to drive heavy passenger motor vehicle be granted unless he has held a driving license to drive a LMV for at least 2 years or a medium passenger motor vehicle for at least 1 year. So there are a variety of vehicles. On the basis of that, the conditions are finalized. That is for light motor vehicle, at least 1 year condition of license. Then for the heavy vehicles, 2 years license is there. And for the medium passenger motor vehicle, for at least 1 year license should be there. So that is the authorizations, and other points are also mentioned under these rules. Then fifth one is related to the power to make inquiries. So in case if the transport officer thinks that we have to make the inquiries for that applicant, then they can do that. Then under 5A, additional evidence as to the correctness of address and age. So if the applicant wants to change their address or the age, then he can give the different documents like income tax PAN card, domicile certificate issued by the competent authority, postpaid bill of applicant's mobile telephone, applicant's telephone bill, and if he has no telephone, then the affidavit sworn by the head of family. So these are the different documents to change their address and age. Then exemptions of driver for road roller. So the different provisions and exemptions given to the road roller driver. Then seventh is testing officers. So the test of competence to drive as prescribed by the central government shall be conducted by inspector of motor vehicle. So inspector of motor vehicle is going to test the applicant. So the applicant is a member of Home Guards only, and the Commandant General of Home Guards may conduct the test only. So in some of the cases, there is no fees for the state government persons, for the ex-service persons of armed forces, and some other persons which is decided by the state government. So there is a exemption of fees provision. Then it is appellate authority, then conduct and hearing of appeals. So if any objection is there by the applicant, then they can go for the appeals, and then there may be a hearing. In the 10th point, requirement as to photograph on the driving license. So we all know that there is a requirement of photograph on the driving license so that the RTO or other persons can check easily that the person who is driving the car and holding the license is same. On a similar line, they also required some other documents with the driver. Then if you lost or due to some reason, if that license is destroyed, then you can opt for the duplicate license also. You can apply for this duplicate license with the prescribed fees and formats and documents listed down. Then you can also get the duplicate license, but that is in the red color. If you have defaced or torn the driving license, then also you can apply for the duplicate license. So that duplicate license in red and shall be marked with the date of issue, that it is the duplicate license from this date. Then the manner of delivery of a driving license. So the driving license is posted by that RTO through the registered post acknowledgement due, that is RPAD only. Then the temporary authorization in lieu of driving license. In some of the cases, if you want the license as a temporary license, then you can have that temporary acknowledgement, and that is in the form L. which is indicated on the vehicle also by capital L in red color. Then intimation of disqualifications. So in case the applicant is disqualified by the RTO or some assistant RTO or officer with a valid reason, they can understand and they have to convey that disqualification to that applicant. Intimation to the original authority of renewals and endorsements. Whatever the renewals given by the authority, that should be conveyed to all the authorities which is related to the state and central government. Then certificates by Automobile Association in lieu of driving test. So some provision is also made by the state government that the following automobile associations for the purpose of second provision to subsection 3 of section 9 can be done. So there are some Automobile Association of Bengal, North Indian, Southern Indian, Automobile Association of United Province, then Western India Automobile Association and Deccan India Automobile Association, Hyderabad. So they can also provide the license. Then report of change of address for driving license. So driving license holder, if the address is changed, then they have to communicate to the RTO office within the 3 months. If certain provisions to be exempted from the driver license, so we already discussed about that. The state government employees, some foreign council officers and ex-servicemen from the armed forces are exempted from this fees. Then duties, function and conduct of drivers of public service vehicles. So the drivers of stage carriage or a contract carriage other than motor cab shall not cause or allow any person, animal or thing to be in the space reserved for the driver's seat. So that driver's seat should not be occupied by the other persons or the animals or whatever it may be. So that is only for the driver. Then shall not shout in order to attract a passenger, shall subject to any rules and regulation in force prohibiting the taking up or setting down the passenger. Then shall not, when bringing his vehicle to the rest of the for the purpose of picking up or setting down the any passengers at rest for the said purpose, shall at all times exercise all reasonable care and diligence to maintain his vehicle. So it's driver duty to maintain his vehicle because he only knows what exactly the condition of that vehicle is. Then he shall behave in civil order and in orderly manner toward the passenger and others. Then he shall wear a khaki shirt or a brush shirt, bush shirt and khaki trousers. So it is like a police khaki uniform. So khaki shirt and or the bush shirt and then khaki trouser is essential or mandatory for that driver. So he shall display his badge also. Normally it is a metallic badge and only one should be provided to that driver. Then shall maintain the vehicle in a clean and sanitary conditions. Then in case of any mechanical breakdown, he has to arrange to convey the passengers to their destination by other vehicle arrangement, and he has other duties also. So like luggage or cargo, if any suspected things are there, then they have to inform to the police officer regarding to these suspected substances that may be a dangerous or flammable nature or explosive. Then rules for conduct and duties of drivers of motor cabs. Now it is for motor cabs. The previous one was except the motor cab. So all drivers shall move their cabs up as vacancies occur in the stand. Then when the vacancies are there on the stand, they have to drive their cabs to that particular positions. Then there is a specific requirement that like distance of not less than 30 centimeter from the cab immediately in front of it, where he stand hits cab and is by the side of curb parallel to and not more than 30 centimeter from the curb. So there are very micro level guidelines are also provided that how to park these vehicles like motor cabs and what exactly the minimum distance criteria is there and some other guidelines. Then the next rule is related to the additional rules for drivers of motor cars fitted with the taximeters. Now it is the motor cars with taximeter. So the driver of every motor cab fitted with taximeter shall not set in a motion before it is hired. Otherwise, the bill is more than the expected, and shall stop it immediately the cab arrives at the destination. So after the arrival of destination, the driver should stop that taximeter. Then conduct of drivers of good vehicles shall not cause or allow any person, animal, or thing to be placed or to be in the space reserved for the driver seats. Then behave in civil and orderly manner, we already discussed. Then not solicit the customers also, and some other guidelines. So we already discussed about these batches, that only one batch should be provided to that driver, and normally it is a metal badge. So before giving this metal badge to that driver, that inspector should consider the driver's knowledge regarding the topographical knowledge and the area, and also the local language or the Marathi, because in the Maharashtra, most of the people are talking in Marathi, and that is why Marathi is an essential language for that driver also. And then only he has to give that badge. In case that badge is lost or destroyed by that driver, then duplicate badge shall be issued after a payment of nominal fees. Then maintenance of state register of driving license. So we have to maintain the state register for these driving licenses, to whom we have to given that driving licenses. In there any cases of duplicate licenses or any destroyed licenses, worn licenses, whatever it may be, all the things should be maintained. So that may be maintained either in a bound book or on a computer disk or tape. So there may be some specific provision, like if the person is above 16 years and below 18 years, then we have to authorize that person to drive a vehicle, but without gear. So only without gear vehicles only are allowed for the persons who are having the 16 plus age, but less than 18. So that entry should be made in that state register separately. Then chapter 3 is related to the license of conductors now. Up till now, we have discussed about the licensing of drivers in chapter 2. Now it is chapter 3, which is related to the licensing of conductors. So in a similar way, many things are on the similar lines. So like licensing authority, we have discussed about these regions. Then when driver on any person can act as a conductor without license. So in case of emergency only, the person can act as a conductor, and that is the maximum limit or the duration for acting this person as a conductor without license is 1 month. So with reference to Form L and first schedule, the person can act as a conductor without the license also, that is an exception case. Then application for grant of conductor's license. So before giving the license, the person should display or give us the medical certificate that he is medically fit, and then only the conductor's license can be provided. Then simultaneously, we have to check the qualification for grant of this conductor's license, the knowledge of that person, and good moral character, and SSC as a basic qualification for this conductor. So these are the basic needs, that is the adequate knowledge, good moral character, and SSC examination for this license of conductor. Then change of residence in case of any, then they have to communicate to the RTO. In case of any issues are there with reference to this license, then they can renew of conductor's license after the expiry date. Then conduct and hearing of appeals in case of any objections or in case of any suspension of license or the cancellations of license, then applicant can go for the appeal and then hearing can be takes place. Then duties and conduct of conductors of stage carriage. So on the similar line of drivers, again, these are the some of the duties, like he should be responsible, he shall not smoke while on duty, he should behave in a civil and orderly manner, and he shall be cleanly dressed and shall wear khaki shirt or khaki blue shirt and khaki trousers of police pattern of khaki color. Then some other guidelines are similar like drivers. Then additional provision or duty is there of conductor, that is he shall issue a ticket immediately on payment of the legal fare or freight by the passengers. So that ticket provisions and the calculations and the calculation of the amount, that is additional duty of this conductor. Then shall assist the driver wherever it is applicable. Sometimes the vehicles are approaching from behind or from side. Sometimes the drivers can't reach to that particular view, and then the conductor is going to help. In case of reverse of that particular cab also or the vehicle also, the conductor's duty is to support that drivers. Shall not allow any explosive or dangerous or flammable substances to be carried in the bus as a personal luggage or cargo. So that is another observation should be done by that conductor. Then there is a provision against holding more than one conductor's license. So he must possess only one conductor license. Then there is a requirement as to photograph. So recent photograph should be provided by that conductor to the regional office. Then conductor's license lost or destroyed, then he can go for the duplicate license with submitting the required documents and the photograph again. In case of defaced or torn conductor's license, they can also approach for the duplicate license. Then in for the issuing of this duplicate conductor's license, the office is going to clearly mention that it is a duplicate in red and shall be marked with the date of issue, like driver's license. Then the badge is again there for the conductor separately, so that metal badge is going to provide for the conductor, and it is clearly mentioned the word conductor. Then there are some other provisions are also there, what exactly the dimension and the size of that badge should be, etc. Then the effectiveness of conductor's license issued by any other state other than the state of Maharashtra, then that also applicable or acceptable one, but the verification should be done by the Maharashtra state officers.